Hello there. We're down in the workshop and I'm going to be installing one of these, which is a flush mounted rod holder. Now this kayak came with 4 already installed, 2 here and 2 behind the seat there. So you might think adding yet another 2 is a little bit excessive, but actually it's not to do with fishing at all, it's to do with safety. I usually only fish with a maximum of 3 rods, but that can mean obviously that I've got 2 out of one side at any one time, which is what we've got set up here. Now if I fell out this way, then I'd need to get myself back in, but these 2 rods are blocking it. So the plan is to have 2 rod holders at the back, so that this deck area is completely clear for me to be able to swing my legs into the kayak. With the magic of, here's one I made earlier, we've got one in there, and then one that can go in here. Now I can do all of that from the water nice and easily, and I've got this space to get back into the kayak. So what I'm going to do now is pop another rod holder on the other side, level with where this one is now. So with a permanent marker I've outlined the area that the rod tube is going to sit. So it's going to go in like that. Now obviously we need to find the dead centre to put our drill bit. So we're going to mark up in the middle, and that can give us a specific point as to where we're going to drill. What I'll also do is put 4 holes with the marker pen where the screws are going to go, so that I've got it bang in place. So we've got our box marked out. Now it's time to drill the hole. We want to be going in at an angle to match the rod tube. These feel-free ones I think are 45 degrees. So we want to have a nice angle like that, and we want to drill through right in the middle. When you're cutting out the large hole through which the rod tube can go, there are a number of different ways to do it. The first way that I tried was with the jigsaw and a drill bit that is wide enough for the jigsaw blade to cut through. So all you do is pop the hole through the middle and then cut out the area that you need to leave free for the hole with the jigsaw. Works pretty well. You're left with nice little chunky bits of plastic afterwards. It can be a little bit tricky to judge the speed. Obviously a lower speed is much better because you get a bit more control. But it works well. The other method, which is probably quicker to get the hole, is to use something like this. Now this is 38mm, so it's a little bit smaller. You can get a very quick hole right through. You can't use them at an angle because they tend to kick when you're trying to spin the drill. So it just kicks against the surface. But flat, in it goes, you get a hole very quickly. Probably the best way though is to use a hole saw. Pretty cheap to pick up. I think this set was only 7 or 8 quid, and if you get one that has got a complete set of teeth, you can use it at an angle. So you can cut down through at the 45 degrees that we'll need beautifully. And that leaves you with something like this, a nice circle of plastic. Offcuts like this are always handy to have around, just in case you need to fill a hole from a fixing that you've moved. If you use one of these drill bits, all you're left with is this nonsense, which is really not much use for anyone. So the advantage of either method, with the jigsaw or with the hole saw, is you do get something usable at the end. So never throw these bits away because they can come in handy. So we'll put a pilot hole in to help us get the right position, and then we will swap over and use the hole saw. So there we have our hole, nice and in the middle. It's just a little bit too tight. The angle's good, but it's just a little bit of a pinch. So we'll open it up with the jigsaw. The easiest and the best way to do this is very, very gently. Only take off a little bit each time. So there we have the oval hole in the middle and 4 holes for the screws to go into. These screws go in at 45 degrees. Ideally, I'd like to use rivets in order to attach it, but rivets work best going at a flat 90 degree. As these are going in at a 45-degree angle, it's probably best that I use the screws that came with it. It is a nice little set. You get 2 of these rod tubes and the fixings to go into it. But one disadvantage is it comes with possibly the most useless rod leash I can imagine. It's only that long and it's good for nothing, but they've put a hole in the tube for it. So I will seal that and I will use a rivet for that. The other thing I need to do is, I don't think the camera can pick it up, but through the middle there is the wire cable that attaches the rudder to the pedals. So I've just got to loop a little bit of thread around the side and underneath the cable and out so I can pull it out the way. Then I can slip this in there and that lines up beautifully. So, next thing to do is put some sealant around and screw it into place and put the rivet in where that little hole is. Now when we're putting the sealant on, you don't need to use loads, just enough to cover the areas around the holes. What will happen is as soon as you put the rod tube on, it'll all ooze out the side anyway. So all you're looking to do is give a nice amount around the area of the fixings, so whether that's the big hole in the middle or the 4 on the round the outside or the 1 for the rivet, and that's enough. Any more and you're just causing yourself more work in clearing up a horrible gooey mess when you come to put it on. So you don't need to cover the whole box area, just enough to make sure that there's sealant all the way around the hole. So once that's in, we get our piece of fishing line to get the wire out of the way in the hole. That goes around there. This is where my fingers get coated in the stuff, but never mind. And we get our rod tube. Slip him in there, like that. Pull that out of the way. Make sure he's going in at the right angle and squeeze him down. As you can see, it's all oozing out the side, so there's plenty in there. Now, time to screw it in. The feel-free set comes with a set of screws for this, and they are, I think, size 3 Phillips head. So in they go, and they're going in at an angle. Bit more oozing out, and it's always worth doing this in a particular order. If we go from the furthest away hole from the previous one, so diagonally, bit more oozing out. That way you should get a nice even tightening up. Right, now to put the TriStar rivet through that little hole. These little things are great. I do prefer these to screws, but you really must use, if you're going to use rivets, you really must use the plastic ones, these TriStar ones. They're easy enough to get hold of. Most decent online kayak shops will sell these. There we go, just pops in there. But the metal ones will damage it. Okay, a few little tugs, pulls up nicely, and you'll feel the tension, and then eventually it'll just cut the top off, like that. As far as I'm concerned, there are 2 things that really matter when you're kitting out a kayak for fishing, and that's fishability and safety, and I don't think you should really have one without the other. The way that I've got this lined up now is I've got 4 rods pointing out the back. Should the worst happen and I fall in, I can quickly get 2 rods to the back of the boat and completely clear the decks so that I can get myself back in. And that doesn't matter what side of the kayak that happens. Of course, the added advantage is it does give me an extra rod holder. So maybe maximum of 3 rods will become a maximum of 4, 5, 6, we'll see. Anyway, happy days!